From the heart of South Asia to the crossroads of Central Asia, from the turbulent Middle East and North Africa to the power corridors of the West, where narratives collide, perspectives matter and stories connect. This is Beyond Borders. I am Omar Khalid. During this hour, we'll try to understand the evolving stories across the world and take you to the world which is without boundaries or borders, and of course talk about those stories that are changing the world as we know it. We'll begin with the top stories of the day, or as we call them, region lines. We start from South Asia, where Pakistan's military leadership has pledged to counter any Indian aggression with a swift and decisive response, shattering any perceived notion of India's relative safety accruing from a geography, and any imaginary new normal will be met with a new normal of swift retributive response. Earlier, in a major intelligence-based operation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Orakzai district, the security forces eliminated 19 Indian-sponsored terrorists from Fitna al-Kharij. Lieutenant Colonel Junaid Tariq, Major Tayyab Rahat, along with 9 other soldiers, were also martyred in this operation. At the United Nations Security Council, Pakistan highlights India's state terrorism, disinformation and propaganda, which proliferates hate through false narratives as part of its narrow foreign policy agenda. Exercising his right of reply, Pakistan's Councillor Muhammad Jawad Ajmal reiterates Pakistan's condemnation of the Pahalgam attack and highlights Pakistan's offer for an independent investigation, which was rejected. In the Middle East, Israeli atrocities continue in Gaza despite ceasefire talks that have been underway in Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh for the last 3 days. Qatar's Prime Minister will be joining in indirect talks between Israel and Hamas on President Trump's plan to end war in Gaza. Meanwhile, the Israeli forces intercepted another Gaza-bound aid flotilla organized by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. The convoy of 9 vessels carrying journalists, medical professionals and activists was seized in international waters. Moving on, British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer rules out visa relaxation rules for India. During his 2-day visit to the South Asian nation, Starmer says there were no plans to open up more visa routes to Indian workers or students. Lastly, the US federal government shutdown has entered its 8th day as President Donald Trump warns he could block furloughed federal workers from receiving back pay once the shutdown is over. Trump's threat escalated his pressure on Senate Democrats to end the standoff and invited legal scrutiny over the White House's tactics amid the shutdown. Trump has also threatened to fire federal workers and cut government programs if the shutdown continues. We'll begin our stories from the South Asian region. Of course, the top story concerns Pakistan's sacrifice against terrorism. Nothing new there. Pakistan has sacrificed tens of thousands of people in this decades-old war against terrorism, but has continued its resolve to fight all kinds of terrorist elements one way or the other till their logical end is achieved. More in the following report.
Corps Commanders Conference pledged to counter any Indian aggression with a swift and decisive response, shattering any perceived notion of India's relative safety accruing from geography. Chaired by Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir, the forum reaffirmed the armed forces' unwavering resolve to dismantle foreign-sponsored terror proxies, especially those backed by India, and declared that any nexus between terror, crime, and political patronage will not be tolerated. Grave concern was expressed over provocative Indian statements, with a clear warning that any imaginary new normal will be met with a swift retributive response. The forum welcomed the Pakistan-Saudi Arabia Strategic Defense Agreement, aimed at boosting multi-domain cooperation, while reiterating support for Kashmir and Palestine and calling for humanitarian aid to Gaza. As military leaders met, sacrifice continued on the ground. Pakistan's relentless war against terrorism continues. In Orakzai, 11 soldiers, including Lieutenant Colonel Junaid Tariq and Major Tayyab Rahat, embraced martyrdom during an operation targeting Fitna al-Kharij, killing 19 militants linked to India-backed networks. At the United Nations, Pakistan's Representative Mohammad Jawad Ujmal strongly rebutted Indian accusations, exposing its role in funding and arming terror groups. He reminded the world that it is India which sponsors and funds terrorist entities in Pakistan and violates sovereignty through cross-border aggression, which has been proved several times. Also in Moscow, Pakistan's Special Envoy on Afghanistan, Mohammad Sadiq, called for urgent collective regional efforts to dismantle terrorist groups operating from Afghan soil. Speaking at the Moscow format consultations on Afghanistan, he warned that the continued presence of groups like the TTP, BLA, Jaish-al-Adl, ISIL, and al-Qaeda threatens regional peace and stability. Pakistan, along with China, Russia, and Iran, reaffirmed its commitment to a stable, sovereign, and terrorism-free Afghanistan. From the UN to the battlefield, Pakistan's message remains unwavering. The nation stands firm against foreign-sponsored militancy, and Pakistan will never bow to terror.
We've been joined to discuss more on this topic by Major General Tariq Rashid. Khan Saab is a defense analyst and right here with us in the studios. Thank you very much, General Saab, to have joined us. Pakistan's renewed counter-terrorism strategy, nothing new there, but of course it has become, the resolve is becoming stronger and stronger with every passing year. And the way we have been thwarting all enemy designs is for everybody to see. But the way we are tackling this nexus between terror, crime and political patronage, how do you view that in the current context of also India's backing of all these terror outfits like Fitna al-Khawarij, Fitna al-Hindustan?
I think India is not only backing the terrorism activities in Pakistan, it has come to known as a state-sponsor terrorist country in the world, you see. And Canada has maligned them, and they had openly said, Justin Trudeau shortened his visit and went back, and they told you have killed a Sikh who was a Canadian national. And then there are court cases against the raw agents who were trying to kill Sikh in United States also. And then in Qatar, the raw agents and the naval officer have been caught spying for the India. And then in Australia also. So India is only the country in the world who has been established beyond doubt as a states who carry out state-sponsored terrorism. As far as Pakistan is concerned, and everybody knows that they have been for a long time supporting this Fitna al-Khawarij and Fitna Hindustan, to an extent that they had established number of their consulars, offices in Afghanistan. So it is, I think, in their psychology and in their policies, they want to have a friendship with their neighbors. They don't want to have a good relation with the neighbors. You see, in the SAARC 7 countries, India has problems with everyone.
Yes.
And now we have given proof at the United States. I think we need to have a little more proactive approach
You talk
in
about,
exposing.
you talk about the proactive approach. Recently, you've seen the Orakzai incident in which 19 terrorists were sent to hell. When you look at incidents such as these, the proactive involvement of our armed forces, what, in your point of view, does Pakistan need to do more, as I would ask?
I think what we need to do is we need to break the nexus, as you mentioned in your introductory statement, the nexus between crime, the criminals and smugglers and this terrorism. Somehow we have not been able to do that.
Right.
And we need to cut their financial support. Their foreign handlers who are sitting in some foreign land, for example in Afghanistan or maybe in Dubai or somewhere, who are providing them this financial support. We need to cut them. We need to eliminate them. And then we need to also in our own country hold people responsible who are sympathizing with them, who are assisting them, who are providing them safe havens, who are, for example, whenever they do some incident, they have to come and stay somewhere. And after doing the terrorist incident, they go and hide somewhere. So anybody who is assisting in any form, we need to register a case against them. And we need to deal with them similarly as we deal with the terrorists. So we need to do legislation.
Always.
And most importantly, especially in the Balochistan and KPK, those provincial governments need to take people into confidence. And those who doesn't listen to them, then the law should take its own course. And we need to, as I said, need to institute a special measure. There's a special situation, we need to take special measures, which should speedily dispose of these cases. And anyone involved, whether facilitating or doing any kind of terrorist act, we should eliminate them and take them to justice within a week or so.
All right, General Saab, you talked about thwarting elements that are present within Pakistan as well, and that brings to mind the repatriation of the illegal Afghans that is happening as we speak since some time. And there is ample proof that some of these Afghan nationals have been very actively involved in terrorist activities within Pakistan. How critical is this repatriation and this process of repatriation that continues?
You see, it's, I think, the most critical. And most of these Afghani, especially who are living illegally in Pakistan, they have been found assisting these Fitna or Khawarij and Fitna Hindustan coming from there. You see, we have hosted them for over 40 years, these Afghan refugees. And now we we hear the news about that this Taliban regime in Afghanistan, their foreign minister intend visiting India. Just imagine. That we have been hosting them, we have been supporting them, still their lifelong goes through us, through Torkham and Chaman border. And they are trying to have a good relation with India. And we should expose all these Indian nexus, especially what they are doing in Afghanistan, at SCO, at BRICS, at OIC, at United Nations Security Council. And we should rather take these Mr. Modi, Ajit Doval and Rajnath Saab in International Criminal Court. We should give their proof there. And then we should also list them, we should try to list them in the black list of the FATF.
All right. All right. That I think should happen. Pakistan should be more proactive in that regard as well, in that direction as well. But there are so many directions that Pakistan has been taking and inshallah will continue to take. The 272nd Corps Commanders Conference was recently held in the General Headquarters. A very strong message was given by Field Marshal Asim Munir on the occasion. Is the message conveyed to India, to New Delhi?
Yes, message is very loud and clear. You see, the Mark-e-Haq, whatever our leadership said, whether military or the political, they proved that. We said our response will be swift, it will be very painful. No, whatever they said our response again will be very swift and it will be decisive. And no part of the India this time we will let it go. We will strike wherever we feel like, and so dare not again undermine the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Pakistan. I think the resolve of military leadership and political leadership is very clear. The message has been sent very loud and clear. But as you know, the Indian political leadership, whenever there is some internal problem, whenever there is some election coming up, as the Bihar election have been announced on 6th and 11th of November.
Within a month's time.
Within a month's time. And next year also there's, I think, 4 and 5 states, Assam, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, etc., Kerala, they would be having some elections. So you can expect anything from India. But if they do it, we will try to...
I think the message has been sent also through what happened in Operation Mark-e-Haq in
Exactly. And then what we need to do is we also need to have some, I think, effective diplomatic maneuver where we should, for example, Saudi Arabia, the strategic mutual defense agreement which we have said, one of the important clauses, one of the important clauses that attack on any nation will be considered attack on the other. So if India tries to undermine Pakistan in any way, that means they are going to undermine Saudi Arabia. China is also our ironclad brother. I think they dare not attack Pakistan. But if they do it, our response will be very decisive, very destructive, inshallah.
The collective security response, of course, has completely changed in the wake of this defense agreement that Pakistan and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have signed. And the message is, again, as we say, loud and clear, as far as India is concerned. A Moscow format meeting was recently held where support for Afghanistan's integration into regional connectivity and trade projects were one of the things that was discussed. I'd like to understand, how can Pakistan, China, Central Asian states who were present at this meeting transform these pledges into corridors of cooperation that not only ensure development but also stability and security for Afghanistan and the countries around Afghanistan?
You see, China and Russia, they are closely engaged with the Taliban. And as you know that Amir Muttaqi had visited China along with our Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister also some time back. And this is acting Foreign Minister of Taliban. He's there in Moscow, as you said, Moscow format. India is also part of this format. And the message, the joint communique which has been announced very clearly, that Afghanistan soil will not be allowed to be used by any foreign countries. And Afghanistan will not allow any terrorism or terrorist organization to use Afghanistan soil against any country. So I think Afghanistan have problem, but we have come a long way. We need to engage them bilaterally also and multilaterally also from countries like, as you mentioned, both Moscow format, also with China, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, who has some kind of influence on them. And we should assure that, and they should be convinced that the Afghan soil should not be allowed to use, especially against Pakistan. This is very important for us.
All right. What kind of language, I mean, before I come to the next question, which also concerns the Moscow format, what kind of language, in your point of view, do the Afghans or the Afghan interim government understand?
I think they understand only two languages. One language is language of strength, and other language is languages of finance. You see, even at the time once the Afghan National Army was there, Ashraf Ghani, or then there was elected government there, at the Karzai or Ashraf Ghani, even at that time in various regions of Afghanistan, when the Taliban had some kind of control, Americans were giving them money. America has not formally recognized them. They keep talking against America. But there are reports that even President Xi has been getting $40 million a week. Trump has announced this. So they understand the language of finance. And I think the Indian access to Afghanistan also, I think, depends on these finances which the Indians keep doing to them.
All right.
So we need to engage them, I think, directly, and better sense will prevail. We have
you feel better sense will prevail?
Inshallah, it should prevail. We have a common culture. We are bound together by the same religion. We have hosted them. The lifeline goes through us.
Right.
So we need to use our cards sensibly.
All right.
And if they don't understand, we should calculate or should be able to adopt any measure to ensure that their soil at least is not being able to use against Pakistan. And second thing, that all one should go back. That is very critical.
Okay. Also, you know, speaking on the Moscow format, one thing that was also decided and discussed during this important Moscow format, and that was not just Pakistan, that was other countries as well, that the Afghan soil must not be used to threaten neighboring countries. It reminds me of Amir Muttaqi, the interim foreign minister. His first statement when the interim Afghan government came into power was that the Afghan soil will not be used against any of their neighbors. And look where we are a couple of years down the lane, where there's a constant influx of terrorist elements through the Afghan soil into Pakistan, and you know, one incident after the other happens. And had it not been for our defense forces, I don't know where we would have stood, you know. Thanks to our defense forces, we still can breathe a sigh of relief, but the fact is that such terrorist incidents continue. When the participants at the Moscow format say that the Afghan soil will not be used against neighboring countries, how confident are these very regional powers, that includes Pakistan, that includes the Central Asian countries, that the Afghan administration can effectively curb these elements?
So Amir Muttaqi was, as you said, was president at the Moscow format, and joint communication has been announced, in which they have pledged that Afghan soil will not be used for any kind of terrorist activities across border. And they've also pledged that, for example, this United States is trying to have some kind of, again, presence at Bagram Air Base. So Russia has told them very clearly that it is not in the interest of, as a region, stability and security of the region, if some foreign element are present. I think there's capacity issues also, but we need to, as I said, engage them bilaterally also and multilaterally also. And if there's some capacity issue, we should try to help them. And so we have to have some kind of understanding at leadership level.
All right. You talk about the Moscow format. You said yourself that India is part of the Moscow format. We all know that India is harboring and supplying money and arms directly, indirectly to these very terrorists that are wreaking havoc in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan provinces. What should be done vis-a-vis India, in your point of view? Apart from this Moscow format, are there other formats where Pakistan's voice will be listened to effectively and measures taken?
I think what we need to do is, one is that we expose India. We've been exposing them, but we need to expose them more at all international forum and the regional forum, as I mentioned a while ago. And then we need to also talk to them bilaterally also, through track 2 diplomacy. That enough is enough. It is not in the interest of both countries to undermine each other. Both are a nuclear power, and India is a country of 1.5 billion people, and we are a nuclear power, you are a nuclear power. So we should not undermine each other.
All right.
And better sense should prevail, and we should not talk of the growth and prosperity of the people of both countries. And that is the future.
All right.
We should try to convince them, and build a pressure internally. Already
right.
there is a lot of pressure in India. I think if the Modi is removed and there is the Indian National Congress come into power, I think our relation will be totally different.
That is true, but the fact is that Modi as Netanyahu, I mean, they are just so
They are
many
the same
similarities.
side of the
They will
same
do
coin.
anything and everything to
Yeah.
continue to grasp any kind of power.
Yeah, exactly. But no, both have been exposed. Netanyahu also, after attacking Qatar, you see, they have to apologize. Because you cannot go beyond a certain limit.
True.
There is a limit to everything. So America has also realized that now Israel is getting out of their shoes. And that's why you see that Jared Kushner is also present
Yes.
at Sharm el Sheikh.
Yes.
Had he had the complete trust on Netanyahu, he should have not sent his son-in-law there. So, so I think there is a limit to everything. Similarly, Modi, he has exposed at the world level that he is a leader who tells lie, who tries to undermine international resolutions. And on one hand, they want to become a member of the United Nations. On the other hand, they don't honor the United Nations Security Council resolution. So I think India has also been exposed. But the problem is, both these leaders, Netanyahu, their survival is that if they continue this war rhetoric, they continue having hostility with their neighbors, I think the time has come, they both have to leave.
But the fact also, General Saab, you know, you talked about India's rhetoric, also in the United Nations. It continues to spread its lies as it has been doing since the last couple of decades, completely pointing all kinds of fingers at Pakistan, when in fact the actual perpetrator of violence or of brutality, of terrorism within the region and beyond the region has been India. I'd just like to, you know, refer to the Indian delegate's remark on the agenda item 109 at the United Nations on the measures to eliminate international terrorism and how our response by the Councillor Muhammad Jawad Ajmal was extremely important in that context, where he detailed different aspects of how India has been lying to the world and what is the actual reality of that. How can India, in your point of view, a state that blatantly has violated Pakistan's sovereignty by killing innocent civilians, including women and children, lecture others on terrorism while it itself stands guilty of state aggression?
You see, they have abrogated Article 370. They have changed even their constitution. They used to take pride that we are a secular state. And now the minorities are in great agony and danger, and they stand eliminated. They abrogated Article 35, you see, from their constitution.
370 and 35A.
35A, both of them. So and they are not listening to the United Nations, to the International Court of Justice and other OAC, for example, or SCO. But we need to continue this effort, and we need to continue expose them. But as I said, that we also need to engage them bilaterally and engage them in a way that they realize that better sense is that they talk of cooperation, they talk of mending their disputes, and they look forward to a brighter future.
I don't know when they will understand it. Pakistan has time and again given the olive branch to India to come to talks, to talk on all the thorny issues from Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir to terrorism. But India has never come to the table, and in fact it is completely pointing the fingers wrongly on Pakistan, not now, not a month before, but since, I don't know, I wouldn't say time immemorial, but since many years. Let's hope better sense prevails. As you have said, it will be in the favor of the region, it will be in the favor of both the countries. So let's see how things move along. Major General Tariq Rashid Khan Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. It was a pleasure talking to you on these two important topics, Pakistan's fight against terrorism and also how India is calculating, but unfortunately miscalculating its responses at the United Nations and how Pakistan is effectively responding to that as well. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. We'll be back after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now let's take you to the Middle East and North Africa. Now, in the leading news, of course, when it comes to the Middle East and North Africa is what is happening in Gaza. The number of people that are continuing to be butchered by the Israelis is progressing with every passing hour, despite the fact that talks are going on between Israel and Hamas, and of course there are the mediators as well that are also trying to get this deal done this time, because there have been so many failed attempts in the past as well. To add to that is another flotilla that has now been again stopped by the Israelis, and they have also again been arrested in international waters. More in the following report.
Negotiations to finalize a Gaza ceasefire deal based on U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal continued for a third day in Egypt, with sources confirming progress between Israel and Hamas. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's former advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner are expected to arrive in Egypt to join the talks alongside Qatar's prime minister and Israel's chief negotiator, Ron Dermer. As diplomatic efforts move forward, tensions escalated at sea after Israeli forces intercepted another Gaza-bound aid flotilla organized by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. The convoy of 9 vessels carrying journalists, medical professionals, and activists, including 8 U.S. citizens, was seized in international waters about 120 nautical miles from Gaza. In a statement, the organizers condemned the interception, calling it a violation of international law and asserting that their mission posed no harm. Video footage from one of the ships, Gaza Sunbird, showed Israeli forces boarding before the live stream was cut. Israel's foreign ministry dismissed the flotilla as another futile attempt to breach its blockade. The incident follows last week's detention of activists, including Greta Thunberg, aboard the global Sumud flotilla, fueling renewed outrage over Israel's ongoing siege of Gaza.
To discuss more on that, we've been joined by 2 guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Nadir Moaid, who is a Middle East expert. Nadir, thank you very much to have joined us. Nadir Moaid, this is your first interaction with myself, and I hope this will be the first of many. We'll also be joined online by Dr. Belal Alakhras, who is a Palestinian academic, who will be joining us all the way from Kuala Lumpur. We'll begin with you, Nadir Moaid. Hamas, peace talks, Israel, mediators. Hamas puts out certain points which Israel refuses to accept. That is, of course, full Israel withdrawal is one of those points that Israel, to this moment, has not agreed to. Will there be some kind of a middle ground as far as these core conditions are concerned? Will both the sides agree? Will this ceasefire continue to move at a pace as the previous ceasefire agreements had moved? What's your take?
Well, the mediators are putting a lot of efforts, a lot of pressure to bring the situation in Gaza to an end, to end this war, to end this genocide towards the Palestinian nation, to 2.5 million people suffering in Gaza, killing of thousands, crossing 67,000 people killed in Gaza. So Israel basically is under a lot of pressure, and internationally and from the Israeli public as well. The situation in Egypt now is quite positive towards the end of this war, and the people of Gaza have a lot of hope that this negotiation will be more positive, will be better than all the negotiations before, because there is more will from the international community to stop this genocide in Gaza.
All right, so there is more optimism in your point of view this time around. Let's hope this optimism, translates into real, actions as far as this peace deal is concerned. We've also been joined by Dr. Belal Alakhras, who is a Palestinian academic, joins us from Kuala Lumpur. Dr. Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. President Trump expresses optimism as far as this ceasefire deal is concerned, and we all know that Israel is a very close ally of the U.S. Will the U.S. president be able to, pressurize Israel into finally accepting the ceasefire deal?
So the obstacles have been coming from the Israeli side for the last 2 years, where everyone was asking for the end of this war. So for Israel, that was out of the table. Israel tried for 2 years to achieve a number of objectives that it announced since October 2023. So Israel wanted to dismantle the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, and it also wanted to make Gaza as a place that doesn't pose any threat to Israel. And Israel also wanted that either implicitly that to push as many Palestinians as it can out of Gaza Strip. So these goals from Israel, Israel tried to achieve, but there was little from these objectives that we can see any tangible results from what Israel has done. Rather, Israel inflicted destruction in Gaza. And also, Israel wanted to return its captives in Gaza, and only those Israeli captives who were part of a negotiation and a peace, an exchange of prisoners, those prisoners who were released when Israel agreed to have such a deal with Palestinian resistance. Most of them, they returned under condition and in exchange with Palestinians. Now, after 2 years, and the United States realized that Israel doesn't have that capability to continue with this war and achieve what it announced as the end game of this war. For 2 years, Israel just faced more and more obstacles in Gaza. Yes, it killed so many Palestinians. More than 67,000 Palestinians have been killed. And there was a catastrophe and still in Gaza. But look into these objectives and these goals. Israel haven't almost done anything reasonable or anything that we can consider as something with any kind of substance when it comes to all of these objectives. So the United States now considers that Israel needs to find a different pathway. Of course, there are other considerations, but at least the United States now realizes that Israel is isolated in the international arena. Israel is moving towards more and more losses inside Gaza Strip. Almost every day, you can hear about resistance operations inside the neighborhoods of Gaza. So, if the United States continues to believe that this is the way forward, we can expect some kind of ceasefire agreement that can come out of Egypt these days. But it depends on the pressure from the United States. If the President Trump wants to reach this agreement, I think it's possible. It can be reachable. But let us be very clear that here we are talking about a ceasefire. We are not talking about the proposal presented by President Trump that it's talking about disarming the Gaza Strip, expelling the Palestinian resistance, imposing a board of peace, which is can be considered as a sort of guardianship that is not gonna work. And you are coming to meet Hamas and the Palestinian factions. You want to negotiate with them, and that means that you recognize that this is a force and this is a significant force in Gaza, that you cannot decide anything without its involvement in
Totally
this
agree with you,
process.
Dr. Bilal. I totally agree with you on that, Dr. Bilal Alakhras. And let's hope that better sense prevails. That's all we can say. I mean, the ceasefire talks are going on as we speak, and as you yourself said, that for the moment this is about the ceasefire, and then the other points will also be discussed. But let's begin with baby steps. But let's begin with those steps. Let those steps be implemented. Let there be ceasefire. I think that is very important under these circumstances. Thank you very much, Dr. Belal Alakhras, Palestinian academic, joining us from Kuala Lumpur. Final question to you, Nadir Moaid, is regarding the flotillas. We had a global Sumut flotilla that was intercepted by the Israelis, and now we have the Conscience, which was again a civilian vessel that was carrying doctors and journalists and aid workers, and they were again intercepted by Israel, again in international waters, just like last time. But Israel says this is, they're right when they are. I mean, again, I just wanted to reiterate that this is all happening in international waters. Isn't this a violation of international maritime law, humanitarian law, when at the same time you are talking with other partners in order to bring some kind of peace? What kind of peace should we look forward to if Israel continues with such kind of impunity?
This Zionist regime knows that it can run away every time from international laws. It's not bothering itself with any courts or laws or any legitimacy or legal states. It always breaks the international law and the law of other countries without bothering itself with anything. These flotillas were intercepted in the international waters, and no any country said anything. The whole international community was quiet, except one or two countries like Spain, who took good actions against this Zionist regime. The whole other countries, including Europe and United States, who is negotiating with the Palestinians' resistance to end this war, they haven't taken any action regarding this.
But of course, there's the acceptance of the state of Palestine by many countries recently also, and that is, I think, a step as far as some kind of direction that we can talk about. But the fact remains that Israel continues to use its barbarism, its inhumane laws to inflict the violence that it has been doing on the Palestinians, also now beyond Palestine in other countries. We saw it in Qatar, we saw it now in the global Sumut flotilla, and now in the Conscience flotilla as well, when they are going against all kinds of norms as far as this flotilla is concerned. Do you feel, under the current circumstances, a very short answer, do you feel that this is maneuvering that will continue despite a ceasefire agreement implemented?
Yes, the Israeli behavior will definitely continue, because Israel is led by war criminals such as Netanyahu.
So maybe I think we need a change of administration within Israel and people who are not war criminals for Israel to move forward in the right direction. Thank you very much, Nadir Moaid, to have joined us. Kindly stay on with us for the next 2 minutes till we end the show. But thank you so much to have joined us. Let's take you to the West now. Now, the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has ruled out any kind of relaxations as far as visa rules for Indian workers or students is concerned. He, of course, was visiting or is visiting India on a short trip, and he led the largest ever British trade delegation to India that was aimed at deepening economic and business ties. But despite that, he emphasized that the visit's focus was economic and not on any kind of immigration policy when it comes to India. And that, of course, is a setback to India, because it wanted the visas to be opened as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. The Labour government continues its policy to reduce overall immigration. That has been confirmed by Sir Keir Starmer, and there are no visa routes that are planned as far as India is concerned. Last story that also concerns the West, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Donald Trump the US government shutdown that has entered its 8th day, and the US president that also says that his administration plans to eliminate a number of government programs as a result of this ongoing shutdown. He says he's also going to provide details as far as the job cuts are concerned within the next 4 to 5 days. A lot of people are extremely worried, pensive as to what this is going to lead to. But of course, we don't know. We'll know in the next couple of days how many people will eventually be laid off. But we'll be updating you here, right here on Pakistan TV as to what those developments will be. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's Beyond Borders. It is always a pleasure to discuss and share stories from across the world with you, and we'll continue to do that as every day passes, as time flies by, because as I said in the very beginning of the show, through this show we will live in a world without borders, without boundaries, and will continue to bring you stories that matter to you in this changing world. Allah Hafiz.